Hey, soldiers, something monumental just happened. We just witnessed the first cross-border transaction of liquefied natural gas for Chinese yuan, the Chinese fiat currency. Why is this important? Because now we are starting to really see major players, France, TotalEnergies, which is the French, one of the major French energy companies. We're seeing major players start to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, let's diversify away from the dollar in some of these energy trades. So it goes part and parcel with what we always talk about on this channel, which is the migration away from dollar hegemony, or the end of the petrodollar and U.S. dominance in terms of having the reserve currency, the dollar. Let me warn you, you may hear our smoke alarm go off. My wife is cooking, and she's using the air fryer, and it sets off the smoke alarm. So if it happens, through the magic of YouTube, we will be right back with you after this short smoke alarm intermission. Listen, like I said, this is monumental for a few reasons. First of all, remember, France, we got a special relationship, France and the U.S. France is our oldest ally. A lot of people say, well, what about Great Britain? Well, remember, we were actually at war with Great Britain shortly after the Declaration of Independence. We were at war with Great Britain when France, even though they came late in the game, they came to our aid and helped us out in that battle for independence over here in the United States of America. So we've got that, and then we've also got the fact that they are a Western power, okay? Now, on a previous episode, we talked about, we talked about the BRICS nations, the Eastern nations, and some of the South American nations saying, hey, you know, let's start to diversify away from the dollar a little bit. Okay, fine. A lot of these nations have had issues with us politically and economically in the past. So some of that is expected, right? To try to, move as far away from being allied with the United States as possible and decreasing our political influence on them. Because as long as they're using our fiat currency as their as the de facto world reserve currency, then we've got some power over them. Look what we've done with Russia and the sanctions, right? A lot of countries have seen that and said, nope, not going to do it. We're not going to put ourselves in a position to be hamstrung by the United States. African countries right now, they've got legislation pending that America ain't too fond of, right? I think you know what I'm talking about. And this is another instance where the United States is kind of, threatening or at least in the advanced stages of hitting them with the old, oh, we might levy sanctions against you. Well, that threat, that power is diminishing because now we're even seeing companies within France, okay? France is a NATO partner. France is, has been tight with us for quite some time. So here we have China. Their National Offshore Oil Corporation, that's the name of the company, and France's TotalEnergies have reportedly completed China's first purchase of imported liquefied natural gas to be settled in Chinese yuan through the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange. Okay, so a lot of people I talk to, they keep saying things like, oh, well, China's not ready for prime time, and, Russia's Potemkin with their economy, and, just on and on and on. And I'm like, well, how? Wait a minute. First of all those things may be true, but it's not like the United States is in the best position economically that the world has ever seen. We're a country with $31 trillion worth of debt right now and scheduled to hit $50 trillion worth of debt by 2032. So look, no other country has that problem, right? And look, if you think we're going to have any chance of paying that off, let me tell you, we're closer to default on that than we are to paying it off. 1 trillion seconds ago was 31,000 years ago. All right, you may have actually heard my wife singing as she cooks. So it's late here, guys. I got to roll with the punches, right? But look, you will never get this type of entertainment / information with any of the big box news organizations, right? Only here on the Soldiers of Finance channel. Enlist by hitting subscribe. All right, so they didn't confirm the exact monetary value of the deal, but it is reported to have been or have an energy content of 3.2 billion to 3.4 billion British thermal units. And the LNG, or the liquefied natural gas, comes from the United Arab Emirates. Now, there's another component here that's very, very important. The West is starting to slowly realize that we are not going to run the economies that we have today, the society, the energy intensive societies that we have today. We're starting to slowly realize that it's not possible to even, let alone, let's not talk about growing, okay? What we have now is not sustainable off of windmills and solar panels, okay? And I defy you to prove me wrong on that, okay? It's just not possible. Now, I was talking to a friend of the channel, a Soldier of Finance, and she was saying, hey, you know how they added hydropower? And I think I've talked about this before on the channel and said, why is hydropower considered renewable? It's not, okay, in every case. California just found out how renewable hydro is. Look at Lake Mead and the drought that it had, okay? I think they're beyond the worst of it. I certainly hope so. But that's not, you cannot guarantee that we're going to get enough rain or snowfall to replenish those aquifers and reservoirs. You can't predict that. It's not renewable at all. So if you take hydropower out of the mix, then you start to see the real story of so-called, alternative sources of energy, these renewables. So the rest of the world is saying, hey, you know what? First of all, the developing nations are saying, listen, America, Canada, France, UK, you guys already built your societies, okay? And you're over there living in climate-controlled environs. You have refrigerated food. You got running water. You got all of this stuff ubiquitously throughout your societies. But yet you want us to, basically put the brakes on our growth as a developing nation by adopting technologies that are the exact opposites of what helped you grow. Hey, we could have kept the windmill. Remember the little windmill you saw in the stories and it's right there by the stream? We could have kept that, but we decided that it was not feasible if we wanted to actually grow a society. So the rest of the world is saying, hey, America, look, here's the deal. You can continue along that, kind of path if you want. You're going to soon find out it's not sustainable. But look, oil, okay? Liquefied natural gas. These fossil fuels are going to be here a while. That is why Warren Buffett continues to buy shares in oil companies and continues to increase his stake, because he knows damn well that unless we all agree to go back to the Stone Ages, and we're not going to do that, you're already seeing pushback from the populists in the West as it is. Unless we agree to go back to the Stone Ages, then guess what? This whole green revolution, the technology's not just there. It's not there just yet. Do we eventually need to migrate off of fossil fuels? Absolutely, because they are finite, okay? So that's not something that's a future-proof solution. But wean us into it, okay? All right, so the exchange, the Shanghai Exchange for Energy, launched in, it began trading liquefied natural gas in 2020. What else here? The CNOOC, that's the Chinese company. They are the largest offshore oil and gas field operator in China. They say they're committed to innovating international resource pricing and settlement, blah, blah, blah. Basically a commercial for them. Now, the scale of China's oil and gas imports is also growing because they're growing as a society. In 2022, China imported more than 500 million tons of crude oil and more than 100 million tons of natural gas, including 63.44 million tons of liquefied natural gas. And the sources are increasingly diversified. All right, so the United States of America, okay, while we're over here indicting former presidents and trying to, devolve into the greatest banana republic that ever existed, you've got all of these other places that are getting serious and saying, look, even if we don't want, I think France is in this position, okay? I think the executives at Total, and look, it's not the French government, but look, the French government could have certainly stepped in there and said, hey, we don't want this to happen. They didn't do that. I think that even our allies are starting to look at this and say, we need to prepare for a post-dollar hegemony world or hegemonic world. We need to start diversifying our interest, because when this thing goes, we're going to still need to be able to feed our people, to grow our society, and to defend our country, to do all those things. So I think what you're seeing with this move is that the West is starting to say, we need to start diversifying, not totally moving away from America. We're going to have a multipolar world in terms of economic power and political power. That is going to happen, whether some of these old line folks here in the United States and in the West like it or not. All right. So while we focus on this backward foreign policy that's still, harkening back to the days of the Cold War. All right. And now it's all about Putin. Putin. They could nominate anybody else to be president of Russia tomorrow, and the United States and NATO will have the same issues, okay, because they need a villain. Things are changing, guys. Listen, you might want to look at some hard assets. We talk about that often, very often here on the channel. You might want to take a look at whether or not gold has a place in your portfolio, whether or not silver has a place in your portfolio. Now, why is that important? Because if there is a new currency that crops up that is backed by those commodities, then, of course, they're going to increase in value. Also, when the dollar, as the dollar gets shakier and shakier and less prominent, then people are going to look toward other sources of value. Gold is definitely going to be up there in terms of, one of the options. So take a look and see if it has a place in your portfolio. And remember, real estate, they ain't making any more of it, and it's very versatile. Not only is not only can it act as an investment that appreciates in value and maybe even provide some income, but it's also versatile in terms of tax benefits. Depending on what kind of real estate you have, you can either grow something on it, you can rent it out. Times are changing. Just fortify yourself. And I want you to, while you're doing your research, take a look at this video. There was just a secret meeting held. Janet Yellen, the Secretary of Treasury, called a secret meeting. And it pretty much remained secret. Why did they do that? What's going on behind the scenes? Look at this report we did to understand who was invited to that meeting, who was in on that. And there were some big players that got a notice out of the blue to come to this impromptu secret meeting. Schedules were synced up on a massive scale. What did they talk about? Check out that report. And guys, I'll talk to you soon.